found a piece of aluminum that was part of a channel, and so I just cut the piece off and then kind of cut it in half to kind of get an idea as to what we're needing to work with here, right? So it looks to me that the module and its mounting holes are right out here on the edge. I've got this flat portion there, so maybe something along the lines of this piece right here, kind of set up like that, and the module sitting on it, of course, at the right height and everything else. So I'm going to go and start to file. I don't have a milling machine right now. Milling machine's in lots of pieces. But I'm going to start to file this down and get it close to what I think is going to need to happen. Now I have two mounting screw holes here. The brass piece that was connected there was quite a bit thicker right there in that region. So I can repurpose those screws, but I'm going to have to make them a little bit thinner, I bet, because I don't think those screw holes go that deep. So we'll start machining by hand this piece to use as a bracket to hold the module. Okay, so I squared the part up a little bit and I put some black dye on there. So 1.140, so that divided by 2 is 1.140. What is that? 5.070? That close? Yeah. We'll put a line on 5.070 here. And one on the other side. And then check it. So yeah. So we have a line denoting basically the midpoint of the part. And I know that if I have this up here right now, that's way too high. So the gap between where I need to be, that right there, needs to come down quite a bit, something like that. So if I catch that right there, measure this height, geez, I think I just scratched the mylar a little bit. Yeah. Well, damn it. I think it'll be okay. So we have 1.070 and then roughly the same there. Oh, I'm so disappointed about the disc right now. I'm going to pause for a brief moment and look at the disc and we'll carry on. Alright, disc is okay. There's a small little line on the very outside from where I touched it with the calipers. Right here. It's very small. I don't think it'll be a problem. So back to where I was at with this. So we know we need to be down at least this much. So that puts us there. And then we need to come down a little bit further. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful right now. Put this on here further away. I'm going to get kind of in the ballpark here and rub it back and forth on the part. That scored a little bit of a line. So now with that little scored line right there, I'm going to carry that across the part here. We're going to take this over the bandsaw and cut it down. I'm going to cut that line off right there. We'll cut on this side of the line, and then we'll probably cut some slots for the screw holes and start taking a look at how this piece lines up. Okay, so we have that cut on the bandsaw. Let's see what that gets us now. So if I put that piece here, with that shoulder, I come on with this part, I'm in the ballpark. So what I want to do now is I want to cut those slots for the screws so I can put this in, and then what I'll do is I will file it down until I get the right height. So I took the piece and lined up the center line and then used my scribe to kind of pick some holes or areas around the holes there, and then I went ahead and just extended those lines out. I'm just going to use the bandsaw to chirp away at that. It's off the center, so the part stays roughly in the center, and I could go with the same on the other one, kind of like that. So I rough cut those slots, just the two of them, and I have a file that I can work its way into there to see if I can make that a little bit larger. I don't want to set the file on the surface plate, but let me get one of these screws out here. There's that one. See if it... Gone. That one's gone. I dropped it. I found it. I thought it bounced forward, but it actually bounced back that way. I gave up and I was about to call it a day, and I went ahead and grabbed the light one more time, shone it on the floor behind, and there it was. So right now my slots are not wide enough. Let's find that file. I'm going to open these slots up a little bit till that screw goes through and see how the alignment is. So I followed the screw notches enough, and I put two of the smaller screws in, and then if I take the piece I can slide it in there. So that's kind of how it's going to be locked in. I don't know if it's going to face out. I don't think I can get the diameter that way, so it's probably going to have to get turned the other way. But let's see what that does for the location of this. So right now it looks like we're almost on the low side, so I need to move this down quite a bit. So I'll get to filing a little bit more on the bottom of this until we get this this side to where our gap gets set correctly. Okay, I have filed this edge down to 0.280 at this point in time. If I stick it on the part and hold it in place, and I bring the module in, see what we get. I get what I think is probably on the extreme of the gap. It's really hard to see right there, but the gap is looking pretty darn good right there. I get plus 20, and then 5 and 10. So that should be pretty close. So now I know that this can't be turned this way, so I'm going to look at turning it this way. At the same time, I also need to consider how far in this is going to go. So we have the other dimension from the other page that I know that this is going to go in quite a bit, and if I look at the screw holes, they're kind of right on the outside of the barrel here, just by kind of glancing at that. So if I turn this around, I may need to cut this part off so that I can get a thread in here to mount that to. I'll have to find some screws to do that with, but for right now, what I think I'll do is I don't need all this length. That's kind of silly to have this all the way there. Yeah, I can't even push this through right now. So I'm going to cut a portion of this off, take a look at it, and call it a night. We'll pick this back up tomorrow. All right, it's the next morning, Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, right? So I finished sanding that down, just using a file. I've got it at 278 right now for that thickness. And we need to go ahead and attach it to the mounting place. I think we looked at it kind of going like this. Put it down all the way against its flat. Tighten it up. I get kind of cockeyed. And then we take the module and put it back down here. I'm really happy with the gap that I've got. Now what we have to figure out is where the module sits in relationship to the center of the shaft. In this case, they're calling out 0.620 plus or minus 5 thousandths, or 15.75 millimeters plus or minus 0.13 millimeters. So the way that I'm going to do that is we'll set this up in a V-block, the height gauge set up, and we'll measure from the pin to this platform. Yeah, from the pin to this platform to get an idea as to where we need to drill the 2 holes. Let's get that set up right now. Before we set that up, let's do some math here. So we know that this distance from the center line of the shaft to the center line of these holes is that 620 dimension, and then we also have some knowns about this part. In this case, we know that the part is 0.45 inches long, a little under on this one, and then the location of the hole is 0.147 back from the far, or from this location, and then this one is from there. But if we look at this picture over here, we can tell that the center of the hole is 0.110 back from the back edge. So let's take that 0.110, we can add it to this. So 0.620 plus 0.110, we get 0.730. So if we do this line down here and I say 0.730, that puts us to this point right here. And we know our shaft diameter is 236. So 236 divided by 2, that's 118. 0.118 is half of that. So if we go from one part of the shaft to 730, so say 0.730 minus 0.118, we end up with a dimension of 0.612 is our target dimension for the back side of the module to the top side of the shaft. And that's what we use the indicator for. I've got the part located in a V-block right now. I'm going to indicate the top to where it's relatively flat. I've got a little high on that side right now. Rotate over. A little high over there. I guess I don't get much of a two, almost a 2. Go ahead and cross over this. Okay, 2, almost 2. We'll call that okay. See if we can't get this to 0 now. Zero out the height gauge. Okay, so from here down, I'm looking for 0.612. So we'll come off, we'll go over the shaft, we'll come down, somewhere in the center. There's our 0. And right now we're at 595. So off the back of this, I have a 17 thousandths difference. That's where let's write that number down. And we'll go back up and check it. So we have 595. We're actually looking for 612, which is good because that allows me to raise the module back up some. So 0, 0. Go back up. Under the center line where the part is. Come back down. So that's 0, 0. Okay, and I'm still at my 0 here. So what that tells me is from the back face here to the shaft, we're at 595. Our number that we're looking for is the 612 number right here. Here's where we're at. And that allows us to move the part. It's going to be, what, 5 will get us there, and then 12, so 17 thousandths is how far further back the reader needs to be. And that'll put us right here on this 20 thousandths mark right there. So I'm going to change up the layout, take this piece off, and start getting ready to attach that other piece. So I've set up 2 gauge block stacks. This one's a 317, and this one is a 300. And then that gives us the height difference. This one right here is going to be the one where we hold the piece onto and up, and that's facing in. Let's get the module. The module goes in this direction, but because I can't, I guess we can do it this way. So we have the module here, and actually in this case there is a line. No, not really. We want the module to be centered up in the part. There's probably a slightly better way to do this. We have our center line. That looks pretty close right there. Keep it all kind of held in place. Ooh. Is that actually touching? Okay, we have a little bit of a problem here. I need to raise this all up. I have this piece, a little parallel. That will allow me to hold this off the edge where that's actually flat down. Yeah, that's much better. Hear that click click where it drops back off the edge. Get this aligned to be roughly in the center. That's not the easiest thing to hold on to. And then use that drill bit to go into the hole and mark the locations. See if that's good enough. There we go. We have 2 marked locations. We'll check and make sure that they are roughly equally spaced from the end or from the center line. Let's go from the center line out. So to this one, it's 420, and to this one, it's a little bit shy. So we're not quite in the center. So we'll use the punch to pull them. Actually, let's see. This is 90, so they're 15 out from the center. If this one's at 420, and this one is at, let's see, 385. So 85 to 20. That's nearly 40 thousandths, so 18 thousandths. Let's go to here and see what that gets us. This one's a little bit out at 406, and this one's a little bit in at 406. And then we will center punch, drill, and tap those holes. It also looks like there should barely be enough clearance between the hole and this back wall. I'll go drill it and tap those holes. Okay, so I have finished tapping and drilling those 2 holes for the mount to go onto. Let's go ahead and get this piece back on here. down. We have a little side-to-side motion if the others are off. It took me a bit, but I was able to find 2 screws that we could use to get this mounted on with. So here's this. Let me get those screws ready. Have them in these nuts so they don't roll around. Let's get this on here. Okay. That's in its general position. Might be kind of tough to get these started. There we go. Got that one going. Get the other one started. Okay. Check that alignment. Gap looks a little bit thicker than what it should be. Call it good and see what we can. Like the piece is slightly bent, but we'll leave that and see if it works at that position. It should work still. Tighten that up. Snug this one up. See if we can see that now. So we have that's the gap right there that's currently set at. And we're going to bend these down. We'll do some soldering. When we get ready for that, bring you back.